All right, so we are back for lesson 13 in A Course in Miracles. This lesson says, a meaningless world engenders fear. Today's idea is really another form of the preceding one, except that it is more specific as to the emotion aroused. Actually, a meaningless world is impossible. Nothing without meaning exists. However, it does not follow that you will not think you perceive something that has no meaning. On the contrary, you will be particularly likely to think you do perceive it. Recognition of meaninglessness arouses intense anxiety in all the separated ones. It represents a situation in which God and the ego challenge each other as to whose meaning is to be written in the empty space that meaninglessness provides. The ego rushes in frantically to establish its own ideas there, fearful that the void may otherwise be used to demonstrate its own importance and unreality. And on this alone, it is correct. It is essential, therefore, that you learn to recognize the meaninglessness and accept it without fear. If you are fearful, it is certain that you will endow the world with attributes that it does not possess and crowd it with images that do not exist. To the ego, illusions are safety devices, as they must also be to you who equate yourself with the ego. The exercises for today, which should be done about 3 or 4 times for not more than a minute or so at most each time, are to be practiced in a somewhat different way from the preceding ones. With eyes closed, repeat today's idea to yourself. Then open your eyes and look about you, saying, I am looking at a meaningless world. Repeat this statement to yourself as you look about, then close your eyes and conclude with, a meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. You may find it difficult to avoid resistance in one form or another to this concluding statement. Whatever form such resistance may take, remind yourself that you are really afraid of such a thought because of the vengeance of the enemy. You are not expected to believe the statement at this point and will probably dismiss it as preposterous. Note carefully, however, any signs of overt or covert fear which it may arouse. This is our first attempt at stating an explicit cause and effect relationship of a kind which you are very inexperienced in recognizing. Do not dwell on the concluding statement and try not even to think of it except during the practice periods. That will suffice at present. So the course is so direct, and we talk about this a lot in this training. And what I think the reason that it is so direct and why it can be is because it's so sure that even the minimal effort that we put in will suffice. In the text of the Course in Miracles, it talks about how even a little bit of willingness is enough to allow the power of the divine to integrate into our consciousness and into our realities. So, just the smallest little bit, even these few minutes each day that you are putting forward to retrain your mind to default into love, loving thought, loving action, rather than fearful thoughts and fearful actions, is enough to ensure that you are on a different trajectory and you are on the right path. So, in this lesson, it's actually teaching us kind of the root of why we feel fear sometimes. It feels fearful because we believe we live in a meaningless world. We can't understand, like, why is there poverty? Why is there suffering? Why is there inequality? It doesn't make any sense to the sanctity, the truth of who we are. And yet we're here. We're here in observation of it. We're here often feeling like we are at the effect of it, like we're victims of the world we see. That's a lesson that's going to come up later for us. But it's just inviting us to recognize the meaninglessness of this. It need not be this way. Recognize how that is what's causing us fear. So if we can learn to accept it without fear, we're on the right path. It really is about, my coach and mentor, Dorothy DeVac, used to say that the acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. So it appears real, just like our separation appears real. These bodies that we have to house our spirits feel very real. The Course has a very interesting teaching on the body, just as a little side note here, that the body was not made by God, but was made by man to confirm our belief in our separation. So it seems that you are over there and I am over here. This body serves as a wall energetically from your energy. But beyond the body, the truth is that we are all the creations of the divine. We are all created in loving consciousness. So nothing can change that. What's been created cannot be uncreated. But what has been made is not necessarily bad per se, but it is not eternal. That's why we say only the creations of love are eternal, are lasting, are real. So, what else do I want to say about this? This lesson also really kind of comes into define, what the ego, how it operates, what it is and how it operates. And it's saying that our ego is using to the ego illusions are safety devices, and they must also be to you who equate yourself with the ego. So again, here's this detachment from our separation, the aspect of self, ego, edge God out. We're looking to detach ourselves from that and to see that it is the ego that is creating these safety devices to protect itself. Because the ego, the aspect of us that feels separate and alone, knows that we have a higher intelligence. And it is constantly trying to distract us with fearful thoughts that cause us suffering, discomfort, anxiety, and pain. Okay. So it's saying here later that you might find it difficult to avoid resistance in one form or another to this concluding statement, which is a meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. So there is no competition. Competition is what's creating suffering, keeping track of who's winning, what points, what mistakes people have made. We are trying to usurp God, which is crazy. And then we think we're going to have like vengeance, we're going to get in trouble for that. When the truth of it is, it doesn't even acknowledge that that is true or real. It's all an illusion. So, cause and effect. The cause of pain and suffering is thought. And the healing to that is healing at the level of cause, which is changing our perception. So happy practicing today. Keep going, and I will see you in the next lesson.